God says, "Listen closely, my beloved soul, and allow your heart to become still for just a moment, because this message is not arriving by chance, and it is not meant to create fear, pressure, or confusion. It is arriving with clarity, with peace, and with purpose. You are being invited into a moment of understanding, a moment where love speaks louder than worry, and where divine timing gently reveals what your heart has been sensing for a long time. From the very beginning, heaven has been watching over your son with extraordinary care. Even in moments when you felt unsure, even when you questioned whether things were truly going in the right direction, there was a quiet protection surrounding him. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady and intentional. The kind of protection that works behind the scenes, shaping outcomes before you even realize something needed to change. You may have noticed subtle shifts lately. Small signs. Changes in tone, behavior, silence, or restlessness. These were not random. They were signals of transition. When a soul stands at the edge of growth, it often feels unsettled before it feels clear. What is coming is not meant to break him, and it is not meant to overwhelm him. It is meant to realign him with who he truly is becoming. Tomorrow carries a turning point, not because something sudden will shock you, but because something long overdue will finally begin to move. A decision, an awareness, a release, or an opportunity that has been quietly forming will take its first visible step. Think of it like a door that has always been there, finally opening just enough to let light through. Not everything will be revealed at once, and that is intentional. Growth unfolds in layers, not explosions. As a parent, your heart has carried many prayers you never spoke out loud. You held concern in silence, strength in patience, and hope even when answers were unclear. Those silent prayers were heard. They did not vanish. They became part of the foundation being built beneath your son's path. Love that is consistent has a way of shaping futures in ways force never could. Your role now is not to rush, not to control, and not to assume the worst. Your role is to remain present, calm, and open. What your son needs most during this change is not correction or pressure, but trust. Trust that the values you planted are still there. Trust that lessons learned have not been wasted. Trust that even missteps can become teachers rather than failures. There is wisdom in allowing space for transformation. When someone feels trusted, they often rise to meet that trust. When they feel watched with fear, they shrink. Tomorrow is not about confrontation. It is about alignment. Something will click. Something will settle. Something will begin to make sense in a way it did not before. This message is not asking you to be afraid. It is asking you to be aware. Awareness brings peace when it is paired with love. Stay attentive, not anxious. Stay supportive, not suspicious. Stay hopeful, not guarded. You do not need to force conversation, but if one opens naturally, listen more than you speak. Sometimes guidance arrives through listening, not advice. Remember this clearly: change does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, reshaping everything without asking for permission. Tomorrow marks the beginning of that quiet shift. It may not look dramatic, but it will be meaningful. It will move things in the right direction, even if you only understand it fully later. You and your son are not walking separate paths. Your lives are connected through love, through intention, and through growth that mirrors each other. As he steps into something new, you are also being asked to step into deeper trust. This is not about letting go. It is about letting grow. Hold on to peace tonight. Let tomorrow unfold without fear. Stay grounded. Stay open. What is coming is meant to build, not break. To guide, not confuse. To strengthen, not divide. God says, listen closely, my beloved soul, because this continuation of the message is meant to go deeper than reassurance. It is meant to bring understanding, patience, and strength into your heart. What is unfolding around your son is not a single moment but a process, and processes require calm eyes and a steady spirit. This is not about predicting events. It is about recognizing growth while it is still forming. Your son is standing at a point where inner change is beginning to show signs on the outside. Often, before clarity arrives, there is confusion. Before maturity settles in, there is questioning. Before direction becomes clear, there is wandering. None of this means something has gone wrong. In fact, it often means something important is going right. Growth rarely feels comfortable while it is happening. You may have noticed that your son has been quieter than usual, or perhaps more expressive than before. You may have seen him pull away at times, or you may have felt that he is thinking more deeply than he once did. These are not signs of distance, they are signs of development. When a person begins to understand themselves more deeply, they often turn inward before they step forward. Tomorrow represents the moment where internal thoughts begin to shape outward choices. It does not mean everything will change overnight, but it does mean the direction begins to shift. A realization may take place. A conversation may land differently than expected. A situation that once felt heavy may suddenly feel lighter, not because it disappeared, but because understanding arrived. As a parent, you have carried responsibility, concern, and hope all at the same time. You tried to protect while also allowing freedom. You tried to guide without controlling. That balance is not easy, and you may have felt at times that you were failing simply because you cared so deeply. But caring deeply is not failure, it is the foundation of trust. Your son has learned more from observing you than from any words you spoke. He has seen how you respond to pressure. He has watched how you handle disappointment. He has absorbed your values even when he did not acknowledge them. Those lessons are not lost. They are stored, waiting for the right moment to surface. This season asks you to shift from worrying about outcomes to supporting the process. The more you trust the growth, the more space it has to unfold naturally. When a young soul feels trusted, it develops confidence. When it feels constantly evaluated, it becomes guarded. Right now, your son needs to feel believed in, not monitored. You are not being asked to ignore responsibility. You are being asked to soften control. There is a difference. Responsibility says, I am here if you need me. Control says, I do not trust you to choose well. Tomorrow's shift responds better to responsibility than to control. If your son approaches you, listen fully before offering guidance. Let him finish his thoughts without interruption. Let him feel heard before he feels advised. Often, clarity forms simply by being allowed to speak freely. Sometimes, the answer he needs will come from his own words once he hears them out loud. There is also healing taking place, not just for him, but for you. Parents carry guilt even when they did their best. They replay moments and wonder what could have been done differently. This message is also releasing you from that weight. You were never meant to be perfect, you were meant to be present. And presence has power. Tomorrow may reveal a side of your son you have not seen clearly before. It may surprise you, but it should not frighten you. Surprise is part of learning who someone is becoming. Trust does not mean blindness, it means openness. Understand this clearly, your son's journey is not a rejection of your guidance, it is an extension of it. He is taking what you gave him and learning how to carry it in his own way. That is not loss. That is growth. As this change begins, keep your words gentle and your expectations realistic. Avoid assumptions. Avoid jumping to conclusions. Let events speak before emotions react. Calm responses create safe spaces, and safe spaces allow truth to surface naturally. You are allowed to feel concerned, but you are also invited to feel hopeful. Concern without hope becomes fear. Hope without concern becomes wisdom. Balance both, and you will navigate this season well. Remember, you are not walking alone through this. Every step you take with patience strengthens the bond between you and your son. Every moment of understanding builds trust that will last far beyond this season. This is not the end of a chapter. It is the middle of a meaningful transformation. Stay steady. Stay kind. Stay open. Tomorrow begins something gentle but important. And you are exactly the parent your son needs for this moment. God says, listen closely, my beloved soul, because this part of the message is meant to bring depth, reassurance, and long vision into your heart. What is happening around your son is not loud, dramatic, or sudden on the surface, but it is profound beneath it. Some of the most meaningful changes in a person's life arrive quietly, without announcement, and only later do we realize how everything shifted because of them. Your son is entering a phase where identity begins to take shape more clearly. This is not just about decisions or behavior, it is about understanding who he is becoming. When a person reaches this stage, they often wrestle internally before they move forward externally. Silence, hesitation, and reflection are not signs of being lost. They are signs of forming direction. You may feel a mixture of pride and concern at the same time. One moment you see strength in him, and the next moment you worry if he is ready for what lies ahead. Both feelings can exist together. Loving someone deeply means feeling hope and fear side by side. This message is not asking you to deny either, it is asking you to let wisdom guide how you respond to them. There are lessons your son must learn through experience, not instruction. This does not mean your guidance is unimportant. It means your role is shifting from directing every step to walking alongside him as he discovers his own rhythm. Growth requires space, and space does not mean absence. It means trust. Your son has been observing the world carefully. He has been watching how people treat one another, how choices create consequences, how words carry weight. Even when he did not speak, he was learning. Even when he seemed distracted, he was absorbing. These observations are shaping his values more than you may realize. Tomorrow symbolizes the point where internal awareness begins to influence outward behavior. It may not look dramatic. It may be as simple as a decision made differently, a response handled with more maturity, or a thought expressed more clearly. Small changes often signal the beginning of lasting transformation. It is important that you do not rush to label what is happening. Labels can limit growth. Instead of asking, "Is this good or bad?" allow yourself to ask, "What is this teaching?" Curiosity opens understanding. Judgment closes it. Your son does not need pressure to become someone else. He needs permission to become more fully himself. When people feel accepted as they are more willing to grow into who they can be. Acceptance is not approval of every action, it is affirmation of worth. There may be moments when you feel tempted to intervene quickly, to fix, to correct, or to protect. Pause. In those moments, ask yourself whether intervention is needed or whether presence is enough. Sometimes, simply being calm and available does more than advice ever could. This phase is also inviting you to reflect on your own journey. Parenthood has a way of resurfacing our own unanswered questions, our own unresolved emotions. As your son grows, you may notice old fears or hopes rising within you. This is not coincidence. Growth often happens together, even across generations. You are being invited to release the idea that everything must be controlled to be safe. Safety does not come from control, it comes from connection. When your son feels connected to you, he is more likely to seek your guidance when it truly matters. Trust is built through consistency, not perfection. Being emotionally steady, listening without judgment, and responding with patience create an environment where honesty can flourish. In that environment, even difficult conversations become opportunities for understanding rather than conflict. Your son's future is not fragile. It is forming. Formation takes time, mistakes, reflection, and courage. Mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. Reflection is not weakness, it is strength. Courage does not always look confident, sometimes it looks like trying again after uncertainty. As tomorrow approaches, hold space rather than expectations. Let events unfold before you decide what they mean. Often, clarity arrives after observation, not before. Allow the story to reveal itself instead of trying to predict its ending. You are not losing influence in your son's life. You are transforming it. Influence rooted in trust lasts longer than influence rooted in authority. Long after rules are forgotten, the feeling of being understood remains. There is wisdom in restraint. There is strength in patience. There is power in believing that growth is already underway, even when you cannot yet see its full shape. This message is also reminding you to care for yourself during this time. Supporting growth requires emotional energy. Give yourself moments of rest, reflection, and compassion. You are not required to have all the answers. You are required only to stay open. Your son's journey will not always mirror your expectations, but it will reflect the values you lived, not just the ones you spoke. Integrity, kindness, resilience, and humility are taught through example, and you have already planted those seeds. Tomorrow marks continuation, not conclusion. It is one step in a longer path. Walk it with steadiness. Walk it with trust. Walk it with love that listens as much as it speaks. This chapter is unfolding exactly as it needs to. And you are exactly where you need to be to support it. God says, "Listen closely, my beloved soul, because this is the final movement of the message, the place where understanding settles, where confusion softens, and where your heart is invited to rest instead of worry." Everything you have sensed until now has been preparing you for this moment of clarity. What concerns your son is not meant to frighten you, pressure you, or overwhelm you. It is meant to mature both of you in ways that cannot happen through comfort alone. This stage your son is entering is not about rebellion or distance, it is about alignment. Alignment between who he feels himself becoming inside and how he begins to show up in the world outside. This alignment often feels uncomfortable at first because it requires honesty. Honesty with self, honesty with dreams, honesty with limitations, and honesty with responsibility. When honesty appears, change naturally follows. Tomorrow represents a shift in awareness. Awareness does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet decision, a pause before reacting, or a new willingness to think before acting. These moments may look small to others, but they are significant internally. They are the signs of someone beginning to take ownership of their life. Your son is learning something important about consequences. Not in a fearful way, but in a grounded way. He is beginning to understand that choices shape outcomes, that effort compounds over time, and that consistency matters more than intensity. This realization does not come from lectures, it comes from lived experience. And he is in the middle of that experience now. You may notice him becoming more thoughtful, more reserved, or even more serious at times. Do not confuse seriousness with sadness. Growth often brings a quieter energy because the mind is processing more deeply. When a person starts thinking long-term, their silence often increases. Silence is not absence, it is integration. This is also a moment where your response matters greatly. Not because you must say the perfect words, but because your emotional tone will either create safety or tension. Calm invites openness. Anxiety invites withdrawal. Your steadiness will help him trust his own steps. Your son does not need you to predict his future. He needs you to believe in his capacity to navigate it. Belief communicates strength without control. It tells him, "I trust you to learn, even when it's hard." That trust becomes an internal voice he will carry long after conversations end. There may be a part of you that wants reassurance, proof, or certainty right now. That is understandable. Love naturally seeks certainty. But growth often requires faith in process rather than guarantees of outcome. The process your son is in is not random. It is shaped by everything he has already lived, observed, and felt. This phase is teaching him accountability without shame. Shame paralyzes, accountability empowers. When someone learns that mistakes are not identity, but information, they become more resilient. They stop hiding and start improving. This is a powerful lesson, and it is unfolding now. You may feel tempted to compare your son's journey to others, siblings, peers, or even your own past. Resist that urge. Comparison steals clarity. Every life unfolds on its own timeline, and pressure to match another's pace only creates unnecessary friction. Your son's timing is his own. Tomorrow does not mark perfection. It marks responsibility. Responsibility is not about having everything figured out. It is about being willing to figure things out. That willingness is forming in him now. And once willingness exists, growth follows naturally. This message is also reminding you that your role is evolving. You are moving from protector to supporter, from director to advisor. This transition can feel like loss if misunderstood, but it is actually expansion. You are gaining a deeper, more mutual relationship, one built on respect rather than dependence. Let conversations be invitations, not interrogations. Let guidance feel like sharing, not correcting. When your son feels respected, he will listen more closely. Respect opens doors that authority alone cannot. There may be moments ahead where he stumbles. That is not failure, that is practice. Practice is how competence is built. Confidence is not born from avoiding mistakes, it is born from surviving them and learning. You are not being asked to step back emotionally. You are being asked to step back strategically. Stay present, stay observant, stay compassionate, but allow space for ownership. Ownership builds character. This change also carries hope for you. It shows that the effort, patience, and care you invested over the years are beginning to take root. Roots grow underground before anything appears above ground. What you are seeing now is the first visible sign of what has been forming quietly for a long time. Trust that you have not missed anything important. Trust that love has already done much of the work. Trust that growth does not erase connection, it deepens it. As this message comes to a close, let your heart settle into confidence rather than concern. Nothing is being taken from you. Something is being built within him. Tomorrow is not something to fear. It is something to witness. Stay present. Stay calm. Stay open. The journey is unfolding exactly as it should. If this message resonated with your heart, support this channel so more meaningful messages can reach others. Like this video to acknowledge what spoke to you. Comment with what you felt or learned, your words may help someone else. Share this message with someone who needs reassurance today. And subscribe to stay connected for future messages that guide, uplift, and strengthen the soul.